Ever wonder why your phone or gas prices change based on events across the globe? World politics in 2026 is no longer about one superpower. Instead, we have entered a complex, multi aligned system. Like, share, and subscribe to keep up with these global shifts. For decades, the world operated under a single hegemon model. Power was centralized, and the international order was defined by a singular influence. But that era has ended. Today, we have moved into a constellation of influence. Power is no longer held by one, it is fragmented, distributed across emerging centers that shift and reshape global dynamics. In 2026, the global map is no longer a simple binary. Nations like India, Brazil, and Saudi Arabia have emerged as critical swing states. These powers refuse to align strictly with the West or the East. Instead, they practice transactional diplomacy, trading their support for specific national gains. By playing both sides, these nations have become the new power brokers. They decide the flow of capital, tech, and energy, effectively steering the outcome of global decision making. In this fragmented global system, the swing states hold the balance of power, turning traditional geopolitical alliances into a game of constant negotiation. In the modern era, the most powerful tools of diplomacy are no longer found on the battlefield, but in the invisible networks that connect our global economy. Consider the global financial system, anchored by platforms like SWIFT. It is designed to foster trade, but it has become a strategic choke point. When a nation is cut off from this system, their economy effectively goes dark, isolating them from global capital without firing a single shot. Beyond finance, technology acts as an even sharper weapon. Semiconductors are the foundation of modern AI, defense, and industry. Nations that control the semiconductor supply chain can essentially dictate which states evolve and which ones remain technologically stifled. The age of weaponized interdependence is here. States that control the flow of data, money, and chips hold the new keys to global power. In modern geopolitics, a perspective known as neo-realism has taken hold. It posits that the international system is anarchic, meaning there is no central authority to enforce rules. Unlike older ideas that favored global cooperation, neo-realism suggests that nations must prioritize their own survival and self-reliance above all else. Under this view, international bodies like the UN are often bypassed. If a country perceives that a treaty threatens its energy, tech, or military security, it will act unilaterally. It is not about being malicious. It is about viewing the world as a stage where only the secure survive. For the neo-realist, national interest is the only currency that matters. This shift towards strategic autonomy explains why we see nations building their own supply chains rather than relying on global trade partners. Climate action has shifted. It is no longer just about protecting the environment. Today, it has become a fundamental pillar of national defense and state survival. Critical minerals like lithium and cobalt are the engines of the 21st century economy. These resources have become the new gold, sparking a modern, great game across the global south. Major powers are competing to secure supply chains, turning mineral-rich regions into the front lines of geopolitical leverage. Climate security is now resource defense. Like, share, and subscribe to track these critical shifts in the global landscape. In the 21st century, sovereignty is no longer just about borders and armies. It is about who owns the intelligence that drives the modern economy. Foundational AI models are the new infrastructure. Nations that develop their own foundational models secure their technological future. Conversely, nations that lack the compute, data, or technical depth to build these models rely on foreign technology. They risk becoming digital vassals, dependent on another power for the very logic that governs their infrastructure, communications, and industry. Being a digital vassal means your data flows abroad and your progress is dictated by foreign policy. It's a fundamental power imbalance in the age of algorithms. To ensure strategic autonomy, nations are now racing to build their own sovereign AI clouds. This is the race for AI sovereignty. For more deep dives into global trends, remember to like and subscribe. The modern world is facing a profound demographic split. We call this demographic divergence. In the aging North, including Europe and East Asia, Populations are getting older. Shrinking workforces create immense pressure on economies to maintain growth. In stark contrast, the young South, specifically sub-Saharan Africa and South Asia, is defined by a massive surge in youth. This imbalance creates a complex geopolitical puzzle. The North needs labor, while the South needs opportunity. How these regions navigate this divide will shape global power for decades to come. The Arctic is no longer a frozen, impassable frontier. As global temperatures rise, the polar ice cap is receding, revealing new, shorter trade routes. These routes cut thousands of miles off global shipping, but they also expose massive, previously unreachable natural resources. Now, Russia and China are forming a strategic partnership. By pooling resources and diplomatic weight, they are actively challenging traditional Western claims in this high north region. This region has become a new center for resource defense and trade competition. The ice is melting, and the race for influence has just begun. For decades, the global energy market has been anchored to the US dollar. This petrodollar system has been a cornerstone of global finance. However, we are witnessing a gradual but significant shift. Nations are exploring ways to settle trade, particularly energy deals, in alternative currencies. One notable example is the growing use of the digital yuan. By moving away from USD settlement, countries seek to insulate themselves from external financial pressures. This transition signifies a move toward a multi-aligned financial system where no single currency holds absolute power. This is a critical development for global economic autonomy. Space is no longer just for exploration, it is the new frontier of global power. As Earth's resources dwindle, nations are looking upward to the moon. The 2025 Lunar Accords represent a shift from scientific cooperation to competitive sovereignty, setting the rules for a permanent presence on the lunar surface. The core tension lies in mining rights. Major powers are carving out exclusive zones, competing to secure critical lunar materials like helium-3 and water ice. These agreements are not just technical, they are political. They signal a future where geopolitics extends beyond our atmosphere, defining who controls the resources of the solar system. The IMF indicates that global growth is increasingly bifurcated. Nations that have integrated their technological standards and supply chains are now growing 1.5% faster than those that remain isolated. This trend confirms that global economic health is now tied to how effectively a country fits into a specific technological alliance. Being part of a shared digital and industrial ecosystem isn't just a policy choice, it is a primary economic driver. If this analysis of fragmented growth helps you understand the shifting economic landscape, please like and subscribe for more. The smartphone in your pocket is a marvel of engineering, but it's also a map of modern geopolitics. Behind every tap and swipe lies a global supply chain that stretches across continents. Think of the chips that power your processor, the lithium in your battery, and the rare earth minerals in your speakers. These components are no longer just commodities. They are the new strategic assets of the global stage. When countries implement trade bans or chip export controls, the supply chain breaks. This leads to higher prices and longer waits for the tech you rely on daily. Geopolitics isn't just happening in distant parliaments. It dictates the cost of your upgrades and the availability of the devices that keep you connected. It is quite literally in your pocket. Ever wonder why gas prices fluctuate so wildly? It's not just local demand. It's tied to high-stakes global shifts in how the world trades energy. Historically, oil was almost exclusively priced in US dollars. This created stability. But as Middle Eastern alliances shift and nations move toward trading energy in other currencies, this bedrock of stability begins to crack. When global energy markets lose their single currency anchor, they face higher volatility. Markets dislike uncertainty, and when trade becomes fragmented, the price at your local station reacts to that friction. It's a chain reaction. Shifts in Middle Eastern policy lead to changes in trade settlement, which drives global volatility, eventually reaching the consumer. Understanding this global picture is the key to decoding your daily life. We are currently living through a significant period of change. Historians call this the 30-year transition, spanning from 2020 to 250. This era is defined by turbulence as the world shifts from the old singular order into a more complex, multi-aligned global system. Think of this not as a collapse, but as a search for a new stable balance. Nations are recalibrating their alliances, technological standards, and economic dependencies. By 2050, experts anticipate a constellation of influence will emerge, providing a more stable foundation for global cooperation. This transition is challenging, but it is forging a world where power is more distributed and nuanced. In a world fractured into competing power blocks, diplomacy remains the most essential tool for preventing open conflict. It is not just about treaties, it is about maintaining a communication channel. When tensions rise, the void between rival nations becomes dangerous. Diplomacy acts as a bridge, allowing leaders to understand red lines and manage disputes before they escalate into global crises. By fostering dialogue, communication channels act as the ultimate safety valve, ensuring that power plays are settled at the negotiating table rather than on the battlefield. Staying informed in today's multi-aligned world is more than just reading the news. It is about understanding the motivations behind every story. When you see a headline, visualize a filter. Instead of taking it at face value, ask yourself, what national interest is this country protecting? Is it energy, technology, or demographics? Look for the underlying patterns. Is it about securing critical minerals, maintaining an AI advantage? These are the hidden currents of geopolitics. To master this, triangulate your news. Read what multiple sides say about the same event. When you see past the rhetoric, you begin to see the world as it really is, a complex game of competing national strategies. Stay curious, stay critical, and keep questioning the narrative. Subscribe for more analytical insights. We are currently navigating a profound global transition, moving away from a single hegemon order into a constellation of influence. The new landscape is defined by three fundamental pillars. First, multi-alignment. Nations are shifting toward transactional diplomacy, trading support for specific interests, rather than picking rigid sides. Second, technological sovereignty. Control over AGI models and compute power has replaced standard trade as the primary security pillar. And third, resource defense. In a world where critical minerals drive progress, the focus has shifted from climate prevention to securing the very materials required for modern energy. These trends characterize the next 30 years of transition. Understanding them is the key to seeing how global power truly operates today. We live in an era of fragmented growth, where global connections are being redrawn by strategic interests rather than pure efficiency. It may feel like these high-level political shifts are out of your hands, but in reality, your understanding of these dynamics is the ultimate navigator. When you understand the mechanics of resource defense and digital sovereignty, you turn from a passive observer into an informed participant. In this complex, multi-aligned world, your curiosity is your greatest tool. Stay observant, stay critical, and remember, in a world of fragments, your perspective is the bridge. The geopolitical landscape of 2026 is complex and constantly shifting. If you found this deep dive into our global future helpful, please support the channel. Make sure to like this video, share it with others, and subscribe for weekly geopolitical analysis. We want to hear from you. Which geopolitical topic or region should we explore in our next deep dive? Drop a comment below and let us know.